Hey everyone, welcome back for another video. If you're new here, my name is Tonya, and in today's vlog, I thought it'd be fun just to hang out for a few days, read some books. I have some planting I want to do outside and just see what other things we get into. I'm kind of trying to operate lately and change my mindset, and I want to try to find joy in my everyday life, just in the little things. I feel like lately things have just been go, 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 just with work and my everyday life. And I feel like I haven't taken time to find joy just in the little everyday moments that happen in my life. So that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on this week, is finding those little moments of joy. Today's Memorial Day, and I'm just kind of having a chill day. I did get up this morning, I went to Pilates, and then I stopped at Lowe's and picked up some flowers. This is kind of later than I typically get my pots planted up. This is when I'm getting around to it. Like I said, things have been super busy lately, so that was kind of fun just to go pick out some different things to put out on my patio. It's always a challenge for me to try to find things that the deer won't eat around here, so hopefully I was successful. We shall see. And then reading wise in this video, we're going to be picking up today A Kiss of Crimson Ash by Anuja Vargas. And this was kindly sent to me by Orbit and Hatchet Group, and it is a romantasy based on medieval India, which I haven't read a lot of books based on India and kind of, their medieval times or their mythology. So that'll be fun to see a little bit of that culture in this book. And I think also there's like a band of thieves or a team that, they have this mission to accomplish. So I always kind of like a group setting within books. Five Broken Blades was one of my favorite series last year by Maya Corland. And that was, five people who came together to try to take down an evil emperor. So I do like that kind of teamwork aspect and, the dynamic that happens when there's a bunch of different characters. But we'll definitely be getting into this book today. And last night I finished The Ballad of Fallen Dragons by Sarah A. Parker, which was one of my most anticipated releases for the year. And it met all of my expectations. I know there's been some mixed reviews, but it was a 4.5 star for me, pretty darn close to a 5 star. I cried repeatedly. I was a hot mess. Luna felt like she had to comfort me. So I feel like this will be maybe a nice change from all the emotions that happened in that book. So we're going to get through this one this week. We'll see if we get through anything else. And then audiobook wise, I'm listening to the fourth book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, which is focusing on Misha and Asar. And I've really enjoyed the audiobooks for all of the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I know a lot of people just like the first two with Rain and Araya, but I've enjoyed all of them. I think Misha and Asar's story is really interesting and unique, and definitely more on the slow burn side because of the circumstances that they are in. But yeah, so I'll keep you up to date on my audiobook progress as well. And then now I think I'm just going to get Luna out for a walk, and then we're gonna get on the patio and get my pots planted up, and I'll take you guys along for that also and just see where the rest of the day takes us. This will probably be the last time you see me not sweating, because as soon as I walk outside, the sweat's gonna start happening. But yeah, thank you for coming along with me for the week, and we'll just kind of see what we get into. That's all I have for now, and I will catch back up with you shortly. All right, so we are back from our walk, and now I'm gonna head outside and start planting up my pots that I have out there. And first I wanted to give you a little update on my audiobook. Like I said, this one is the 4th book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I'll put it up here. And it's something dusk, but I'll put it up on the screen. And I'm on chapter 35, and as I had mentioned earlier, we're following Misha and Asar, and essentially, because I don't want to give too much away, because this is the 2nd book in this particular duology, Misha and Asar are essentially trying to save the underworld. Some things have went down where it's crumbling, and they're doing what they can to save it. And the first book in this duology, book 3, and this one, book 4, it's been more like quest. The first 2 books in the series were more trial based. These 2 are more quest based, so I have really been enjoying it. Misha is a totally different kind of female main character than Araya was. She is definitely softer and more concerned with caring for other people and putting their needs and their wants first over her own. And that being said, she is still a very strong female character. She's strong in her spirit and in her faith. And I really like that about her. That is one thing I really enjoy about Carissa Broadbent's writing, is all of her female main characters are super strong, just in different ways. Araya was more of a warrior and strong in her mind and in her resolve. And then Misha, she's more worried about, people's heart and feelings and doing what she can for those around her, whether it's to her benefit or not. So still got a ways to go, but that's kind of where we are now. They're going into these like deadlands and looking for, a certain object. And yeah, that's kind of what's going on. And as I said, I can't really go into a lot of details since it is the 2nd book in the series. But yeah, so I'm going to keep listening to my audiobook as I go work on the plants. But first, I am going to get a tasty beverage to take out there with me. I really like these Two Chicks hard seltzers. This one's vodka and elderberry, and then they have a tequila one I really like. But I figure since it is a holiday, I deserve a little adult beverage. So here's what it looks like planted up. This is kind of my little herb bed that I put a couple flowers in. These are super bells, which I picked because deer aren't supposed to eat them, so we shall see. And then I have a thyme, a rosemary, an oregano, and another little super bell. And then over here, this is lavender, and so is this, which they don't look like much now, but they'll get a lot bigger and eventually have buds on them. And then over here, I got these little, they're called Red Ember Campfire, and they're like little daisies, also not supposed to be eaten by deer. And then this little coleus and some vinca vine. So it looks a little rough now, but it'll all grow in. And then I have this little planter with another of those red embers. And like I said, it should all kind of look better in a couple of days. This guy I'm going to end up putting on a little table, but that doesn't get here till Wednesday. So he's just going to hang out there for now. And then I recently got these 2 rocking chairs, which I've been loving. And then I have a little table that I'm going to put in between them. But yeah, so that's kind of what my patio is looking like currently. And I'm pretty lucky with my condo. It opens up right onto the grass, so I can let Luna out pretty easily. And then, there's just a pool behind us, so I feel like I kind of got pretty lucky on the location I ended up in. in yet, but so far I am enjoying the writing. It's very descriptive, it flows really easily. I will say though, the names are kind of hard. I think that, just because of the setting that it's in, with it being Indian in its background, the names are going to be a little more difficult than they may be in some books. One thing that I have found a little interesting is there are also elves in this world, and that wasn't something I was expecting. I did expect there to be, different goddesses and different maybe cultural types of creatures and things like that, but elves was not one that I was expecting. So we'll see kind of how that is woven into the story. Right now, we're just meeting characters and kind of getting a background. Our main female character, at least one of them's name is Tara, and she is 20 years old, and she has just become queen of Abhaye, which seems to be a portside realm, and we're meeting her on her wedding day, and she's marrying a prince named Garjan from a neighboring realm, and she has just recently become queen. Her mother, on Tara's 20th birthday, started kind of losing herself and, just talking in tongue and crying out and seeing visions. So she has basically been locked up in one of the palace's towers, and her uncle's kind of been running things since her mother became ill, and he's the one that has arranged this marriage. Tara wasn't really, planning on maybe marrying this soon, even though she knew it was something that would happen eventually because she is a queen. But things seem to have happened really quick. And that's kind of where we are now. We're just kind of, as I said, meeting our cast of characters. And we've met so far the Queen, Tara, and Garjan, who is her soon-to-be husband. We have also met a courtesan, an elf, and then a friend of the prince's named Roland. So it does seem like there's going to be quite a few different characters in this book to keep track of. But from what I've read so far, seems like it's going to be a really interesting story. But I'll definitely check back in with you once I'm a little further in and have a better idea of, who all of our characters are going to be and what the exact plot is. Hi everyone. So it is now Tuesday. I just got home from work, got into my comfy clothes, and wanted to sit down and give you another reading update. And I didn't make it a ton further into A Kiss of Crimson Ash last night. I'm only on page 50. So what I've read so far, I have enjoyed. I did do a little research on the whole elf issue, and elves were not part of, medieval Indian like folklore or anything like that. There are some like fairies that are somewhat similar to elves, but not elves themselves. So that was just something the author added in. I found in their author's note that when they were writing this and coming up with the concept of the book, they were playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and it was just the elves were something they enjoyed. So I think that's how that made its way into the book. But the elven community is kind of split up into two different groups in here. One is like a more traditional group of elves, and one is more like modern and integrated in with human culture more. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in this particular world. Elves and women are the ones that have magic. So men don't have any magic, at least not as of yet in the book. It's just both races of elves and then women. So definitely some unique aspects to the world building and just the culture in general. Also, I will say this seems like it's going to be a very queer-friendly, LGBTQ-friendly book. So I always love seeing that kind of diversity in books. I think now in our more current times, it is something you see more in literature. I know when I was growing up, some of the Mercedes Lackey books that I read that were LGBTQ, those were, in the 90s, like something that was taboo or almost unheard of. but I do love that you're seeing more and more books being inclusive. So this book definitely seems to fit that bill. I also will say I think this is going to be a spicy one. We've already had a little bit of spice. I wouldn't say it's been too overwhelming so far. One of the characters is a courtesan, so she is in a prostitute house essentially. So there's been some spice around that. And it just seems like the tone of the book in general may end up being a little bit spicy. So yeah, that's kind of where I am with this book, and I am sure I will read more tonight. I should have a lot more time for reading. And then as far as my audiobook, the fourth book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, which I still can't remember the name of the book, but I am now on chapter 41, so things are really starting to ramp up. We're getting near the end of this quest that's been going on, and I think a lot of ish is about to hit the fan. And there's definitely a lot of things that we still have unanswered questions to, so hopefully I will get to the end of that audiobook the end of this week so I can share my final thoughts on it. But yeah, those are kind of all my reading updates for now. And now I'm just gonna do the usual evening things, unpack my work bag, get Luna out for a walk, make some dinner. Then I'll catch back up with you once I've done a little more reading tonight. Now 100 pages in, and I feel like I'm kind of getting a better feel for things. So Tara, who is the queen of Abhaya, just married Garjan, who is the prince of Nandapur. And Garjan's brother, Pavan, who is the king of Nandapur, is essentially an asshole and has this plan to kind of, it sounds like to kind of overtake Tara's realm and turn it more into whatever it is he wants. Tara's realm, Abhaya, is more matriarchal. All of the rulers have been queens. The queen is the one that kind of communes with the goddess and is the real figurehead of the realm. And that is not, the way it is in some of the other realms. They're more ruled by men. And since Tara's mom has become ill, her uncle, who I believe his name is Kamu, has kind of been, ruling things and preparing Tara to take over as queen, which really he's been trying to just set himself up in a better position. So that's kind of the backstory of where things are. There's some sort of plot with the emperor as well, and with these two different houses of elves. There was some sort of event like many centuries ago called the Great Blast, and there was a lot of destruction, and some races were completely wiped out, and magic became a lot less common at this point. So whatever is brewing with the elves and with the emperor all leads back to the time of this great blast. So I'm assuming we're going to learn more about that as we move along, but there definitely does seem to be a lot of moving pieces in the book. Right now I haven't kind of seen where the vision's going to come together yet, but hopefully as I get further along in the book, things will start to become more cohesive and kind of meld together, and I'll get a better idea of the different factions and what they're actually fighting for and kind of the real story. There's been a lot of world building so far, so we haven't really got into the thick of the actual plot. So yeah, that's kind of where I am now. I'm sure I will read some more tonight, and then I will check back in with you once I do have another update. All right, so I am back with another reading update. It is now Wednesday, and I just got home from work. This was in the office day for me. And as far as my audiobook, the fourth book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, I didn't make a lot of progress there. But at this point where I am in the book, we are now on to finding our third item. We are looking for 3 different items in this particular book. So we're trucking along to the end, still enjoying it. Love, just the way that Misha and Asar interact with each other, and looking forward to how this is all going to play out in the end. I am sure there will be a total cluster of plot twists and things happening the last 100 pages or so of the book, so can't wait to get to that portion. And then as far as A Kiss of Crimson Ash, I am now up to chapter 18, so about 200 pages in, so a little over halfway, and things are starting to kind of come together. We're seeing how the paths of our various different characters in the story are going to start kind of coming together. Love to see that happening. It's always nice when things start to intertwine and you can see how everything's connected. Now, I will say some of the relationships in here do seem kind of surface level in their chemistry. I would like to have a little more meaning, a little more depth in the various relationships that are going on within this book. And there are quite a few different relationships. We're essentially following 3 what will be couples. They haven't all completely come together yet. Well, they've come together, but they're not what I would call real couples at this point. Some of them have been more flings than relationships up until now, but you can kind of see where they may develop into relationships. So far in this book, as far as the couples, there's been MM, there has been FF, there has been FM. So we've had a little bit of a mix of everything. I do appreciate the diversity that this book offers, not only in people's sexual relationships, but also in how they identify, and in the fact that, a lot of the characters in this book are people of color. So diversity-wise, this book is great. I would like to see a little more depth in the relationships, though. That's definitely something I do feel is lacking, but we shall see as the book continues. That's kind of my update for now. And then for the rest of the evening, I do need to get Luna out for the walk. She got shortchanged a little bit last night because it was raining. And then I have a Pilates class later. Her walk is time for her and I to spend time together. And then my Pilates class is time where I can just focus on me and my health and my body. So those are definitely things I've been trying to focus on more. I think it's helped my mental health as well as it's helped my physical health. And then, of course, also tonight, we will do some more reading. So I'm going to go get changed and then I will catch back up with you guys later. All right, my friends, so I have today off work, so we're going to head out for some adventures. We are going to go and get something I have wanted to do done for quite some time, and I've just never had the courage to do it, but it is something I think will bring me joy. So we're going to do that together today. And there is a local bookstore that I've been meaning to check out that I've never made it to. So we're also going to do that today. So kind of, not my normal day, but we're going to do a couple of fun things together. And also we're going to finish off The Kiss of Crimson Ash. I think I have like 40-ish pages left right now. It has picked up quite a bit, so I am liking it a lot more at this point, and we'll just kind of see how this last 40 pages wraps up. Something big just happened in the last chapter I read, so we shall see how she finishes out. And yeah, that's kind of what we're gonna get up to today, so let's head on out. A super cute bookstore, super vibey, had very eclectic decor and a pretty decent range of books. Not like a ton of special editions, but they did have some. So didn't get anything today, but definitely will be coming back to this one. It was only like 10-15 minutes from my house, so always nice to find a little hidden gem in your community. So now we're gonna head to stop number 2, which I'm excited and nervous about, and you'll see why. All right, so I did it. I don't know if you can actually see, but I got a cute little nose piercing, which is something I've wanted for years and I've just never done. I thought, I couldn't pull it off, or it'd be weird for me to have one, or, all the different things. But I've always really wanted one, and I've kind of come into a point in my life where I'm like, why am I going to postpone doing things I want to do? I don't have anyone I need to answer to at this point other than myself, so I decided to get my nose pierced today, and I'm super happy with it. It was quick. It wasn't very painful at all. I mean, it was over in like a second, 2 seconds, so not really much to it. So yeah, I think it's super cute. Finished. All right, my friends, so as you saw, we finished A Kiss of Crimson Ash, and this book actually came out on the 26th, so it is now out and available for purchase. And as far as my thoughts on the book, I think I'm gonna land at like a 3.75 to a 4. I haven't completely decided yet. There were a lot of things I liked about the book, and a couple of things that I thought maybe could have been improved upon. So overall, a really good read. This book had representation of women in color, of powerful women. It was one of the societies that we followed was a matriarchal society, so that's always nice to see. It had a lot of references to South Asian like folklore in it, which that's something I wasn't really familiar with, so I enjoyed kind of, seeing that and having a different perspective on the cultural background than you see in a lot of books. And there was 2 types of magic in this book. There was divine as well as elemental. I always really enjoy elemental magic, so I was glad to see that in here as well. Now, I will say the whole elf aspect threw me off a little bit. I know that's not really part of that South Asian folklore culture, so I almost feel like maybe that could have been handled in the story a different way. I don't know that we really needed elves, but it was fine. There was also a lot of LGBTQ representation in this world. It was pretty queer norm, so always enjoy seeing that in books as well. I know it's becoming more prevalent to see that kind of representation in books, but it's still something that I always like to see from authors. And I think as far as for a debut work, this was a really good book, really interesting concept. Where I thought it could have been improved upon a little bit was Though we had a lot of diversity in relationships, I felt like the relationships themselves, with the exception of one of them, was very surface level, and we didn't really get into the meat of the relationship and how the different individuals in those relationships formed their bonds and got to know each other and started caring for one another. So hopefully that will be something that happens in the later books. I believe this is set to be a trilogy, but yeah, overall, really unique story. Enjoyed the aspect of, there being multiple different couples in the story itself, and that, it was more of a unique kind of setting with South Asian folklore and medieval Indian feel to it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for the last few days and coming along with me as I try to find some joy in my everyday life. And that can look like different things for different people. For me, that's getting my reading in, moving my body, trying new things, and just not holding myself back because of what I believe other people's expectations are. So I encourage you to get out, try to find the little joys in your everyday life as well. Take care, keep reading, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.